Two pirates, both blonde. One is the average doctor, the other is the best chef in the world. But only one of them can win this battle. Who will it be? The speeding sensu bean or the flaming Kryptonian? Let's break it down.
花形登場だよい。
Sanji is the world's best chef and never uses his hands to fight unless his opponent is made out of food. Marco might look like a pineapple, but he is still a human, which means Notorious Sanji is not going to make an appearance for this fight. For most of the post-time skip, people have looked down on Sanji for not showing off any impressive feats, but when it comes to the Wano arc especially, Sanji has shown that he is capable of taking down someone like Marco. And when it comes to Marco, he's by far one of the most overweighted characters in the series, and to be fair, this is understandable because the story has made it seem like Marco could fight against these top-level fighters, but later on changes his stance and puts Marco in a much worse light. So even though some people believe he's up there with Admirals and Yonko, I definitely don't think this is true. Based on Marco's feats, he is much more comparable to the first commanders than the Admirals or the Yonko. And Sanji just packed up Kaido's second strongest commander, so he should also be pretty comparable to the first commanders. Many fans believe that since Marco was the first commander, he automatically defeats Sanji, but that's really just not true. During the Wano arc, many fans have argued that Marco may have become weaker, but there's no evidence to support that. But during the Wano arc, we can see that he takes on both king and queen, and while this is an impressive feat, Sanji was able to pull off the same thing even before his awakening, and it should be mentioned that this was after he let Black Maria beat the shit out of him, so he kind of came into this not even at 100%, so it's really just not looking that great for Marco, since just like Sanji, he got stomped out. Now later during the war, Marco was able to get back up and block a boar breath and block an attack from King right before this, and when the raid started, he was able to block Big Mom's Prometheus. So these are pretty impressive feats, but in this fight, these feats are kind of mid. So after looking through all the things Marco has done, his AP is good enough for the fight, but definitely does not compare to Sanji's, and that is not an exaggeration. Over the 25 years One Piece has been running, we've never seen anyone get seriously hurt by Marco. Obviously, Marco is not a fodder character, but out of all the first commanders, he definitely lacks the most attack power. He is able to heal instantly, so that kind of evens out the playing field in my opinion. When it comes to defense, Marco is arguably the best zoned out fruit in the entire series. Now looking at my boy Sanji, in the beginning of the arc, he was able to use his raid suit against page 1, and he pretty much stomps page 1 with a little bit of difficulty, and later on he removes the raid suit and his body starts to feel weird. Obviously this is because of the Germa genes, but at this time Sanji did not know that, and with his Germa genes somewhat kicking in, he was able to perform well against Queen, and at one point both King and Queen. And eventually, just like Marco, Sanji gets put down, while King and Queen show no signs of fatigue. After constricting Sanji with his weird snake abilities, Queen accidentally shoots himself, and Sanji is able to break free, and his body is completely destroyed, but he's able to snap his bones back together, just like his brothers. Similar to Yonji when he straight up tanks a hydraulic press. Now this is a pretty insane durability feat because he was already stronger than his brothers during Whole Cake, so now that he shares their durability, Sanji's now become a lot more powerful. He basically gets an increase in all of his stats, especially durability and speed. And for the first time since Fishman Island, we see Sanji use Hell Memories, and he blitzes Queen directly in his face, and this is the first time Queen has been hit so hard that he cannot react. And the craziest part about this is that this is base form Sanji. We have not even got to the good stuff. Later on during the fight, Queen reveals his Vinsmoke abilities, and they give him a pretty decent amp, especially in speed. Queen was actually able to hit Sanji with a couple of these attacks, but ultimately Sanji was still able to rip off Queen's arm. Eventually Sanji and Queen turn invisible, but the only difference is that Sanji is moving too fast for the naked eye to see, whereas Queen is literally just invisible. So once again, Sanji is showing some incredible speed feats, and he finishes this fight with a combination of fire and armament haki on top of his new exoskeleton, and Queen gets sent flying to another island. Both Marco and Sanji are incredibly powerful fighters, so let's jump into the comparison. Starting off with AP, as I explained before, this was literally the best thing to come out of the commanders during Marineford. Queen also took a minimal amount of damage from Marco while he got destroyed by Sanji, even before the upgrade, so I think it's more than fair to say Sanji's AP is better than Marco's, but it's also important to remember Marco did not get the chance to fight Queen 1v1, so he didn't have the chance to really put him down. One of Marco's best traits is having special flame properties. That gives him the advantage over regular flames. So Marco might be able to counter Sanji's fire, but I honestly doubt it because Sanji's fire is extremely hot and it's producing electricity, but it's still a possibility. Marco's Phoenix Flames can also cause shockwaves and penetrate durability, so he will be able to do substantial damage to Sanji, considering Queen was also able to make Sanji pass out by the end of the fight. Whether it's base or Ifrit Sanji, he takes this round by far. Right, so when it comes to speed, I'll let these pictures speak for themselves. Sanji is much faster than Marco, which also means that Kizaru and the Admirals are not nearly as far away as some fans seem to think. And on top of his great speed, I'd like to talk about observation haki because it goes hand in hand with the reaction speed. It is said that those with exceptional observation haki can spot Kizaru, which should be pretty obvious because observation haki is literally just precognition. So in the same sense, Marco could use observation haki to keep up with Sanji the same way he did with Kizaru. The only problem is Sanji would still have the advantage because his observation haki is even better than Marco's, at least in my honest opinion. As we know, Sanji's affinity is observation haki, and he was the first one to dodge Katakuri's future sight in Whole Cake Island, which means he might be able to blitz even Katakuri at this current point in time, but that's still debatable. But the fact that we're even debating that definitely means someone like Marco would get blitzed. Luffy also explains that his observation haki might not be as good as Sanji's, at least when it comes to sensory perception. So this means Sanji not only has better speed feats, but he also might be able to achieve advanced observation haki, which would make him pretty broken. So right now, I think his reaction speed is a lot closer to Katakuri and above Marco's. So this category goes to Sanji by a landslide because of his overall speed and his observation haki. Now when it comes to overall defense, this is where Marco actually excels. Both him and Sanji have healing factors, but I think Marco's is clearly superior because it's instantaneous to the point that most attacks seem ineffective. In terms of raw durability, I think Sanji kind of takes this by far, but the problem is that the Phoenix Fruit heals so fast that durability is kind of irrelevant. He has shown limits, and eventually after a long fight he can be taken down, and his body can suffer injuries even without Sea Prism cuffs, but again he heals really quickly. But taking Sanji's upgrades into account, he would not only be more durable than Marco, and he also has his own regeneration, better haki feats, so durability definitely goes to Sanji, while overall endurance is pretty relative in my opinion. The Phoenix Fruit is not to be slept on. Looking at how the fight would actually play out, Marco is one of the most basic fighters in the verse. High speed kicks is basically all you get, as well as healing flames and shockwaves, and this is impressive, but it's not fucking with Sanji. And unfortunately for the speeding sensu bean, Sanji is arguably the best fighter in the verse when it comes to this specific fighting style. But again, giving Marco the benefit of the doubt, he should do pretty fine, as Queen was also able to tag a base Sanji after his upgrades, and he should be a lot faster than Queen. And it should be noted that Marco's speed was basically cut in half because he had to fight two people, so I think it's fair to say Marco can keep up with Sanji, or at least not get blitzed as badly as Queen. And Sanji was already pretty relative to Marco even before the upgrades, and at this point it's clear that Sanji is a lot more AP than Marco and Queen. Sanji's AP falls somewhere in between King and Queen in my opinion, so he'll have more than enough attack power to get the job done. So on top of the fact that Marco's going to have to adapt to Sanji's speed, Sanji should pretty much be able to overpower him in any scenario, and with this new regeneration factor, he is going to have much more endurance, but it would definitely be a much tougher fight than Queen. And we also have to remember that he is Whitebeard's first commander, so he's definitely not going to be as easy to defeat as a fat dinosaur. So the Black Leg takes this in my opinion, but what do you guys think? Drop a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.